Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful astrology soulmates, and welcome to your 2026 annual astrology forecast. I'm practicing professional astrologer Stormie Grace, and this year's videos are so special because you're not going to just be hearing from me, but you'll be hearing from 5 incredible astrologers this year, each with mastery in their own area of life. Now, we've come together to give you a full spectrum look at your year ahead so that you can move through 2026 a lot more grounded, a lot more prepared, a lot more excited, and supported. Now, this video is long. It's long and it's rich and it's intentional so that we can go deeper, so that you have something to come back throughout the year and take a look at how it's shaping up with your life. So take your time, grab a cafe, grab a snack, whatever you like. Listen to this podcast style. Just give yourself an opportunity to really receive from us. Let every astrologer pour their knowledge into you and take your time to digest each section. Now, in the description box down below, you're going to find your timestamps for every section and each astrologer with their links as well, in case you want to reach out to them on their website for additional resources. Now, you're also going to find your 2026 astrology tools. We've got a beautiful downloadable guide for you, as well as your digital transit calendar from our friends at Wise Skies Collective. You can use my code Stormie2026 to get a little bit of a discount, and we use that all year long as we are traveling together. All of this is to help you be organized, be empowered, and feel fluent in the language of astrology as you are navigating 2026. So, my beautiful friends, take a deep breath, get comfortable. I've got my tea. Get comfortable, and let's explore 2026 together. Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful Virgo friends, and welcome to your astrology for 2026. Thrilled for you this year. This is a milestone year because you're coming to the closing of an 18-month karmic story in the Virgo Pisces axes that we've been working on. It's been reshaping you, your identity, your relationships, the way you show up for yourself and for others. There have been some definite changes as the South Node was working through this Virgo placement and giving you an opportunity here in 2026 to look at where that North Node in Pisces has really pushed you to trust the nature of your personal growth, your connection to other people, and to trust the relationships in your life. I feel like 2026, based on that as well, is a clearer path for you to not only trust, but to strengthen your health, strengthen your skills, and strengthen how you can be of service to other people with some of these old stories out of the way. Now, the eclipses for you, as we're going to be traveling and having these last 2 eclipses on these axes for you, I do think in 2026 are a chance to exhale. They are an exhale. Anything that's coming into these eclipses that you've been holding, you've been fixing, you've been adjusting for other people, you're being asked to trust the version of yourself that is present. You've been emerging, you've been doing so much emerging. Really, I think 2023 to 2025 was such a time of change for you. So now in your forecast, you get to remember to show up just as you are now, and that the old stories were not needed. Now, because Mercury is your ruling planet, I just wanted to tell you this. We're not going to cover the Mercury retrogrades in this video. We'll do them separately throughout the year, but I just wanted to cue you that. But first, I do want to start in the eclipses for the year, because we're going to have our first solar eclipse that's happening in Aquarius. So it's not in this Virgo Pisces dance and dynamic that we've been experiencing for the last year. February 17th brings us this eclipse in Aquarius, and it's in your 6th house of daily routines, health, wellness, your well-being, the way systems flow and work together in your life and in your world. So this is the beginning of a new chapter for you in this particular area. Over this next 6 months, going February forward, you might be starting a new job. You might be taking on new daily responsibilities, or you have new daily responsibilities because you stopped taking on something. You're changing and adapting to healthier habits, even if they go against the grain, but they're much more in alignment for you. This will be this story for you to recognize how to align your daily life so that it actually supports you, so that you are in service and not in servitude to your daily routines and your work. When we get to March 3rd, we're going to have a lunar eclipse, and this one is back in your sign. Now, you have been working on this area, your first house, for a year, and I can only imagine. Let me know in the comment section down below how many pieces of you have gone away. And in your earthiness, you maybe tried to hold them or keep building from them, particularly in 2025, and the universe just wasn't having any of that, right? Well, this is the final release in your sign. It's the goodbye to a version of yourself that you've really outgrown, to relationships that don't fit anymore, because there's something about it that has just left you more purposeful. Now, so for some of you, in a very practical way, it may be a change to your appearance, your confidence, your attitude, these very practical, visible things that we can see as well. But I think more than anything, it's about this dissolution and this shedding of old fears that kept you kind of small or kept you in that servitude instead of just being in lovely service and being in the world. As we get to August, we'll have our final eclipses of the year. First, on August 12th, we're going to have a lunar eclipse. Excuse me, on August 12th, we are going to have a solar eclipse that is happening in Leo and lighting up your 12th house space. So right behind you next door in the quiet sector of your chart. Now, the new beginnings that are happening here under this solar eclipse are more about a quiet consciousness coming online, but it's a brave, new, quiet consciousness. So a journey for you about healing, about things going on and building or working something behind the scenes, having to do with commitments, even karmic commitments that you've made that you're maybe no longer going to keep those attachments anymore. You're preparing to close those circles, but it's the beginning to make those shifts that's coming here in August. And then when we get to August 28th, we're going to have the lunar eclipse happening in Pisces. This lights up your 7th house axis, and between the 1st and the 7th house, you have really been working on yourself and your relationships over this last year. I can only imagine in that Pisces side as well, how many times you had to just have faith and have trust that this relationship was or was not going to work out, and then go with the flow. Make a plan, but go with the flow, right? So as we're at this lunar eclipse happening here in Pisces, this is a final relationship release, right? The patterns dissolving, the partnerships either dissolve or evolve. There's really no kind of in the middle. So I'll be interested to see. Let me know in the comment section down below, how do you feel like 2025 really prepared you in the relationship zone to participate in a way that you're going to feel like this final eclipse is like, okay, girl, I graduated. So we can't miss out talking about the nodes, because they are going to be what brings in the shift. Now, if you're one of our soulmates who is using the true node, the true node is going to shift, the north node is going to shift into the vibration of Aquarius June 26th. Now, if you're a part of our crew who uses the mean node is going to be shifting. Did I say June 26th? July 26th. But the mean node is going to be shifting July 17th. So depending on which node you use, it will be what you hear, because you are going to hear it next year. We hear it every year. Stormie, why are you saying it's moving on the 26th? Somebody else said it's moving on the 17th. That's what that is about, okay? But we'll have that north node move into Aquarius and that south node move into Leo. So the Aquarius area is, of course, lighting up your 6th house base, those daily routines, your health, your wellness, including mental health and wellness, the way you service things, your work, not your career, but the things you do on a daily basis to make work life work, those kinds of things is what's happening in this 6th house area. So when you're looking at the nodes moving here, the north node is like leveling you up professionally, leveling you up in your efficiency, which might be something you're really into. Your routines become smarter, not harder, right? You become more intentional about how you are participating in your day-to-day routines, particularly where there are other people. You know, if you're a coworker or you're a part of a team, you're maybe not taking on so many tasks from other people. You're like, here's my area, here's what I do, and I can add this to the whole so that the whole team can be well, right? Things like that. Think about that in your daily routine, how that would apply. Now, that south node is going to be in fiery fire Leo, and that is again in this 12th house space. So for you, This is a release. It's going to be a release of the fears, the karmic patterns, the things going on behind the scenes, the things having to do with addictions, whether they be addictions to chaos or they be drugs, alcohol, any of the other things we can be addicted to. But this real cycle of like over functioning in order to perform, like my friend says it the best, when you have, energy rolling through your 12th house that's trying to leave, think about ending the show and you can stop perfecting your sanctimoniousness. And I just really thought that was so good. So treat it as the spiritual purge that it may be for you. If you need to start that therapy, you need to go to that 12-step group. There is a medication, or you've got parents in a nursing home. Any of these kinds of things will be the work that is being moved through that 12th house. Now, elementally, the year is shifting. We've been doing earth and water, and that's been pretty comfortable. Lots of changes, but pretty comfortable in terms of being able to relate to the elements that are on the stage. Next year, we're leaving that earth and water and we're moving into fire and air. In particular, we'll see Neptune and Saturn move into Aries, and this is going to light up this 8th house space for you, right? So we're shifting from that emotional heaviness of forgiveness and all of this energy, and now we're moving to courage to transform, to move, because fire in the 8th house lights up movement. It's going to light up movement in your intimacy, in your assets, in your resources, in your astrology, in your sex life, in any kind of long-term, deep, connected, and collaborative and vulnerable changes that'll be happening in your life. So for some of you, energetically, these nodes in general are going to have you looking at why you're investing in what you're investing in, whether that be financially or energetically. But certainly as the energy shift and you're pulled to move forward, we'll see some big changes here. When we get into April, we're going to see that Uranus comes back into fellow mercurial sign, fellow mutable energy, Gemini. Now, it did a small trip over here and brought all of that air and that movement into your 10th house, and then it needed to move back to fellow earth sign of Taurus. So as it comes here now in April to do a bit of a stint, this is fast in your career, your actual career that you do in public, the title that we call you, your reputation, what we know you for in public. We see you doing this. Things can happen and change quickly. It's very quick, a massive professional shift, a massive title shift. And when I say title shift, what I mean is, did we call you married last year and this year we're calling you single? Did we call you CEO of whatever last year and we're calling you president of whatever this year, right? Like your name change in public is the same as a massive 10th house shift, but your career, your visibility, something that we're seeing you do, your whole life direction as Uranus pops here and is really ready to put the work in for you can happen quickly. Now, I like it because it's a space where new opportunities can appear for you, right? Like, or if there's an old structure, you're still at the same company, but the entire management staff gets fired and a whole new team comes in and they really want to breathe some life into the company, and now your ideas are acceptable, right? Or old structures in your marriage were not working and there's like a breakthrough and your future accelerates to get this relationship or to get you going in a different direction. So look forward to the motion of all of that air, because it will also bring a momentum. And if you can ride the air, be an airbender, go with it. I think that these areas that maybe even felt stuck in 2025, you'll have a bit more clarity around them. Now, like I said, Saturn and Neptune are coming together in Aries, but I want you to also be paying a lot of attention to February 20th, where Saturn and Neptune actually come together in their conjunction for the year. Now, Neptune's going to ask you to trust your intuition. Trust that intuition. Get quiet. What is the intuitive small voice saying to you? And can you trust it? Can you receive what's coming to you when you do trust it? And Saturn is going to give you the structure. It's going to say, take responsibility. And so really, when I look at this in this area of your life, the big question that I have, and I was beating on all about it in 2025, was, can you call in what you want to yourself? Then can you take responsibility for making a container to receive and then holding what you get when it comes in here, right? This is still going to be big work happening here. Now, whether this is paying off debt, it's healing a trauma, actually learning to trust again, moving into sexual vulnerability in really positive ways, whatever it is, the container is set here. And as they come together in the conjunction, it'll pull your energy to do both sides of the card. Now, Chiron is going to be moving into fellow Earth energy this year of Taurus, lighting up your ninth house space. Now, this is about Chiron being our wounded healer, calling to the surface our wounds around education, belief systems, spirituality, publishing, marketing, broadcasting, legal things, international things, immigration, right? Chiron is bringing up all of these wounds to the surface because there needs to be some clarity around where you felt like you were not enough. You were not valuable enough. Your ideas were not enough. Your body wasn't enough. Intellectually, spiritually, there was like not enoughness or an undervaluing in some way. And as Chiron brings this to the surface, we're able to begin to do this healing work. This is going to be a longer transit as well. So we'll begin to do the healing work. And maybe for some of you, what it looks like is you return to school, like you have to like retrain. Maybe you went to school and you were an accountant and you're finding out in the digital age, you actually need to train to be a video editor to put your accounting services out online, right? And it's enough. Or an idea that you had before, now you're teaching and it's enough. You might actually also find people coming to you and they have had these experiences themselves. Like somebody told them they were too stupid to learn, and you're like, actually, we know more now, and you're not. You are dyslexic. We know that today. I know how to help you with that. I went through that, right? So it's very much so Chiron has the wound, but then it also tends the wound by helping a person that has the similar wound heal from it. So I look forward to hearing your stories because I think this is going to be really potent energy for you this year. Now, we'll also see before we close out that we have Jupiter moving into the vibration of Leo here in June. Now, this is just before it's coming to your sign, so get your life together. Okay, so we have Jupiter coming into Leo, into this 12th house space, the South Node also traveling over here. And I have always heard and seen it with my clients that when Jupiter comes to the 12th house space, it's like you get a guardian angel, right? You get someone who gives you such spiritual protection, moving with you behind the scenes into whatever is going on, into that space that lives between the worlds, because you're going to be preparing for your rebirth of some expansion that again comes from letting something transition out in this 12th house space before 2027, and we see Jupiter move into your sign. So you're really clearing space, you're healing. There might be a lot of creating going on. There might be a lot of Jupiter tends to act as a mentor as well. So maybe somebody's coming to talk to you or mentor you through something that was going on behind the scenes that you've needed some help with. Spiritual breakthroughs, really powerful dreams, emotional healing, the sense of I'm kind of incubating could really be coming for you in the second half of the year. All right, my beautiful Virgo friends, I can't wait to see what your earthy nature creates and the choices that you make as you're traveling with these energies throughout 2026. All I know is that old identity patterns that just don't fit anymore will not be traveling with you. Now, my beautiful friends, I'm going to pass you along to Colin Bedell, who's going to talk to you about your relationship astrology and the energies there for 2026. I'll be with you all year long. And I love you a ton. Have a great 2026 and share with us in the comment section down below how it's going. Bye, Virgo.
Welcome to your 2026 Love Horoscope right here on Stormie Gracious channel. We love having you here. And speaking of love, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your relationships. So Virgo, I want to talk to you about the quality of your relationships this year. But first, let's explain some context because we have something to look at over the last 2.5 to 3 years, which I think can really help you understand what you can make sense of in 2026. So, Saturn, the planet of discipline, commitment, skill building, and integrity, has transited your romantic relationships, Virgo, since March 7th of 2023. It entered Aries briefly from May 25th of last year until September 1st of last year as well. So, Virgo, what I want to say is that it's really important to get this year off in the right direction by understanding what you learned about your relationship with relationships from March 7th of 2023 to May 25th of 2025, and also from September 1st of last year until February 14th of this year. Because those two chapters, March 7th, 2023 to May 25th, 2025, and then September 1st, 2025 to February 14th, 2026, represent your Saturnian assignment. And it's very important that you always apply the Saturnian awareness. Otherwise, you're asking for trouble, which I know Virgo is not doing. Now, typically, when we're making sense of a Saturn transit, it is about skills, not just, suffering and karma and blah, 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 blah. No, I think it's about skill building primarily. Okay. So, Virgo, what are the skills that are going to help you in your romantic relationships? Is it greater mindfulness, asking more thoughtful, open ended questions? Is it working on maybe some criticism and perfectionism? Could it be something as simple as not taking yourself so seriously? I'm not sure. Only you know. And applying those skills will really determine the quality of your relationship satisfaction because Saturn loves when we apply the awareness. That's the crux of a Saturnian opportunity. And then we typically receive an amazing reward if we are not effing around it. Okay. So, what I want to now share with you is on March 3rd of this year, we're going to have a lunar eclipse in your sign. And lunar eclipses are supercharged completions, right? So I really love the fact that on March 3rd, there's a completion energy because, as we just discussed, Saturn will stay in Pisces until February 14th. So from February 14th to March 3rd, you can sort of breathe a bit of a sigh of relief because now Saturn's not going to be in your romantic relationship sector. So, what do you need to let go of on March 3rd in order to then maybe engage in relationships the way you want to? Because I really believe in getting the party started before somebody arrives if you are in partner pre-selection, if you're single, Virgo. Whereas if you're already in a romantic relationship from February 13th to March 3rd, this can be a moment where maybe you just take what they say in the recovery spaces, the fearless moral inventory, and go, yeah, no, I can improve that. Yeah, I should probably apologize here. Maybe I should figure this out. And we're not going to blame or project or put the pointer finger outward, although I'm sure there's plenty of reasons that you can blame somebody. I'm not saying that there isn't, but we're all about taking personal accountability and ownership first, especially because Saturn says if you don't, you can't change anything. And we do pay a high price to not take 100% responsibility of our lives. Otherwise, we're just forever, powerless against the forces that be. So that's my first recommendation for you. And then on August 28th of this year, the 27th, depending on your time zone, that's going to be a lunar eclipse in your relationship sector in Pisces. So this could be an amazing benchmark for you. And I want you to bring on the lunar eclipse the idea that relationships are a spiritual practice, right? And if you're not bringing what you're learning about spirituality to your relationships, then I think what you're doing is just incredibly too convenient, to be blunt, right? But hey, Saturn has been in Pisces for quite a while, so I can say this to you. I think the crux of not just a Saturn assignment, but spirituality in general is to extend the best of our character to our connections because that's the sole determinant of our life quality. So, what other arena is worth it? And I get very kind of leery and weary about this endless culture, what seems like in spirituality and social justice and personal development, where it's all about blame and discarding and getting so nasty and contemptuous to others, when really shouldn't we be incredibly merciful, forgiving, and understanding even when it's annoying, especially because it's annoying, because we're going to be annoying and we're going to piss people off. So we deserve that as well, and we have to give it, right? So, Virgo. And what's my favorite thing about you? Because in every video, I've sort of been thinking about one thing I really love about each zodiac sign and trying to situate that here. I would say my absolute favorite thing about Virgo, and I have many things, is their attentiveness. I believe so strongly that when I'm with my Virgos and we are traveling or working together, which we do, which I'm grateful for, they have this incredible sense of paying attention and attentive to who I am, what I like, what I dislike, and just executing things miraculously sometimes without even me having to ask. Oh my God, what a gift. And I try to keep up with that level of attentiveness. Of course, I'm not going to do it as well as a Virgo because who can? But I just really appreciate my Virgos noticing the things that I want to be noticed. And I see you see me. And I hope that you know that I see you see other people. And that is such a gift right now, given the fact that our attention spans are at a probably all time low. So thank you, Virgo. I appreciate you. And I love you. And I hope you have a wonderful 2026. Bye.
Hello, Virgo, and welcome to your financial forecast for 2026. 2026 could be a tricky year for all of us. We know that whenever the slow-moving planets move from one area of the zodiac to another, that there are financial ripples, and we all have to adjust. We know there'll be at least one of those in any year. It just so happens, though, that in 2026, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Chiron, the planetoid or the trapped comet that moves between Saturn and Uranus, will all change signs. We can think of that as being very big waves headed in our direction. Now, yes, it's true, one could cancel out the other, but that seems a little unlikely. So this is a time when being flexible will be your friend. And that's where, Virgos, you really score. Yes, it's true that you could get an A+ or even a PhD in worrying. Try not to do that. See developments as being opportunities. What goes down usually comes up in the end. There will be fantastic opportunities for you in 2026, but to make the most of them, you need to be calm. Now, on February the 17th, the two planets, Saturn and Neptune, make their way into Aries. That, combined with an eclipse also that month, suggests that this could be a time of dramatic activity. Be prepared for it. Think of it as potentially, yes, a downpour, and it might not be a very pleasant one, but if you've got an umbrella in place, it won't bother you at all. So think insurance for the first 6 to 7 weeks of 2026. Know too that Uranus, which made a brief foray to the apex of your solar chart in 2025, crosses properly into that area on April the 26th of 2026. And that starts a few years of tremendous development. You may well go freelance, and yes, you might balk at the fact that you don't know what the steady wage is going to be, but this will bring big opportunity. The art then is to eke the money out. If you earn a lot of money at the start of the month, you need to pace yourself so that you don't run out by the 21st of the month, for example. You can do all of that, and that's where Chiron will be your friend. Chiron is about to move into another of the earth signs. It goes there for a brief overture between June and September of 2026 and will make a full crossing during 2027, at which point all the world will have to learn to be a little bit frugal, a little bit careful, and not to fret too much. Now, for you, this offers a fabulous opportunity. You can see what others are throwing away and which could yet be turned to advantage. It might be as well, too, to note that at the very end of the year, from November the 25th, in fact, Mars will enter your sign for a slightly extended stay. That's when your voice really will be heard. And hopefully, if you've managed to set savings aside, and if markets are indeed down a little bit, that's where you could go in and buy some real treasures. All told, Virgos, absolutely it's true that your earnings and income and expenditure might be very lumpy during 2026, but the ups and downs could yet be to your advantage. The art, of course, as always, is to be calm. I hope you enjoy your year.
Hey there, Virgos. It is about 2026 and your health for the year. Not that you haven't already been thinking about it, but I've picked a few transits that I think would be great for you to kind of focus in on for just to help take your health to that next level, or things to be aware of. Not that you're always not kind of aware of it. So we can't not do a year of health without focusing on a Mercury retrograde. You're a ruling planet anyway. I know you are aware of this, but it's an interesting year this year with the retrogrades because they're all happening in water signs. Now, as a feminine or yin sign already, this has a smoothness to it for you. Though you, as an earth sign, the physical, the tangible, the practical, this brings in that next layer of emotions on top of it. And I like this for you. It's like this beautiful balancing of the physical and the emotional and how they're impacting on each other. Now, I know you already, as a Virgo, are aware of that, but it's a year that I think you're going to get a lot more insight, especially if you take the time during each of these retrogrades to kind of stop, pause, press the reset button, nourish that nervous system, nourish your beautiful digestive system, your intestines, and just kind of, life gets so busy for you Virgos doing all this stuff. Take the retrogrades as, not stopping, but really coming back by like a third or a quarter if you're super busy and you can't go a third. And just looking at everything you're spinning your wheels doing and thinking and feeling and creating, and just taking that step back, stopping the things that you don't need to be doing and refocusing for what you want to be bringing forward. Great time to release emotional congestion. And, have a watch. That first one is in Pisces. So that opposite sign to you, that's probably going to be the more uncomfortable one. Watch that the gut to immune system, how you're nourishing yourself, how you're absorbing life and your foods, but also how you're absorbing and processing your emotions. It's a great reassessment one. The other two retros, again, just a great time to stop and take stock and look at how you have been processing, not just doing, but how you've been processing things emotionally. Otherwise, there can be, we're watching. So immune, digestion, and detoxification or hormones are the three big areas for the retrograde this year. So again, if those things start going wobbly, really sitting back, looking at your beautiful ruling planet, and also really nourishing where your own Mercury is this year would be a great starting point. What does your Mercury love doing? What sign? What house it's in? Take it out for a bit of a play or a think. And nourishing that nervous system. Oh my gosh, always for you, as you know. But yeah, your emotional state has so much more impact to your digestion, your physical state, than sometimes you even realize. So really looking at balancing between those two, that's the big juggling act for you this year. The nodes are going to move off pressure pointing you, which will be divine halfway through the year. I think the first half of the year is going to be more fiddling and processing, releasing, and the second half of the year is going to feel just easier, more bountiful. I'm excited for you. But yeah, that first 6 months, more work. The second 6 months is a little bit more relaxing. Uranus moving from Taurus to Gemini. Again, nervous system, lungs, vagal nerve. It's already accentuated in you and your chart, but with Uranus going, the chaotic, vibrant, electrical planet, then moving into Gemini, the other ruler of Mercury, this ups the game on our nervous system for all of us and our lungs. So looking at a lot of lung like breathing exercises, vagal nerve toning, which can be done through breathing and humming and singing. Supporting the nervous system through supporting the lungs. I mean, the nervous system for you is always big. Supporting your digestion through warming, ginger and warming digestive teas, calming teas, ginger, cinnamon, Melissa, lemon balm, as long as they're not interfering with any medications you're on. The beautiful digestive herbal teas, calming the digestion will calm the nervous system. It's that sympathetic, parasympathetic situation that always goes on for you. And with Uranus going into Gemini, it's like someone's stepping hard on the accelerator, and we really need to be nourishing that nervous system. So digestive bitters, which are always great for you, but they're also going to be great for the nervous system via the digestive system. So like olives, artichokes, fennel, all your digestive bitter greens, magnesium by the bucket load, which often comes in your dark green leafy veggies, or if you decide to take supplements, again, make sure it's not interacting with medications. But magnesium and electrolytes will be your best friends this year. And just remembering to pace yourself, also bringing in protein, especially in the morning, but at every meal. Virgos tend to lighter, they love their veggies and kind of lighter meals. Sometimes protein can feel heavy, but it's protein. Your nervous system is actually made out of protein and fats. And so the good oils, but also protein at every meal, and remembering to eat, not getting too busy in your brain. And protein at every meal would be phenomenal for you and your blood sugar levels to give you better sustaining energy levels for the rest of the day. Chiron, last but not least, from Aries to Taurus. So this means Chiron is moving into a trine with your sign. But Chiron and Taurus, we're going to get there about halfway through the year. Chiron and Taurus is wounding around how we value our physical body. Now, Virgos are incredible at taking care of their physical body, but they're also hard critics on themselves and their physical body. So I actually think over the next couple of years, with Chiron going through Taurus, trining you, it's a beautiful time to find some self-nurturing, self-love, not being as hard on yourself. You are phenomenal. We all know it. I just need you to know it, and really working on valuing how phenomenal your physical body is. I think that would be just a beautiful thing when it moves into trine for you, remembering how much magic there is in how great you are, and it doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be fine-tuned. Yeah. In the being yeah. So nervous system, as always, for you, support the digestive system, support the nervous system, trying to find balance with your sympathetic, parasympathetic, and nourishing, really grounding that nervous system and enjoying when the nodes move out of your signs.
Hey Virgo, welcome to your 2026 Spiritual Development Forecast. I'm Tiffany, and I'm so glad you found the Stormie Grace channel. We are really glad you're here, and I'm looking forward to just laying out what I see for you happening in 2026. I'm the author of the Wise Skies Digital Astrology Calendar, and so we do have a discount code for you guys if you'd like to check that out. It travels with you in any time zone, and it's good all year long to know what transits are happening. So I found astrology in the year 2000. Before that, I had a near-death experience that opened my spiritual gifts, and it happened on the day that my my Scorpio sun progressed into Sagittarius. And all of the Scorpio Sag themes were there. Near death, right? Sagittarius, we were on a mission trip. We were traveling to a foreign country. And yeah, astrology just became very real for me looking back at the dates. I have a background in event planning, so I still work at different music festivals. I have a master's in health psychology. I have a publishing company. I'm a yogi, and I'm a beekeeper. So that's just a little bit about me. I study and practice and refine, right, in Far West Texas. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we can get our presentation started. So Virgo, we're talking about the wilderness of 2026, and in terms of spiritual development and all of the different peaks and valleys of the divine timing. Your code, if you want to grab that calendar, is Stormie 2026. It's at yskiescalendar.com. So some of the defining moments, we're going to be looking at the mountains and the valleys, the high highs and the low lows. We are looking at astrology as a tool to understand our purpose and the lessons, not exactly the what, but more about the why along the spiritual path as our purpose continues to unfold. We're looking for eternal truths and what God is teaching us, or our Creator is teaching us, what lessons are coming through, instead of what's going to happen to me? When's it going to happen? You know, we're less worried about kind of the mundane media stuff that's going on, and we're more concerned about that spiritual development, that growth that we're experiencing. So what's the purpose of life? That is the question I get asked the most, and I don't have the answer. And you may have a different answer, and my answer may evolve over time. But that is the number one question I get asked. And so if your soul is thirsty for that question, ask it, and the universe will respond. If you sit down for prayer and meditation, you will get a direct hit. For mine this year, the answer is to glorify the Creator and reflect His love to each other. I had a really sweet friend remind me that prayer transcends planets, right? Prayer transcends all of that. So if I'm giving you the map and you don't like it, no problem. You can go a step higher and get into your meditative and prayer connection and get different information. So our guiding light is the Creator, not the planets themselves. What we're going to look at for your ecosystem for 2026 is going to be your age, the wilderness cycle, and then the quarterly forecast. So we get our word planet from the Greek word for wanderer, so wandering stars. So all who wander are not lost, but we must go into the wilderness to have that separate isolation time where it's just us and the Creator, where there's nothing else. And so I want to encourage you to reflect on those themes as we enjoy this forecast. You're in the right place if you have a Virgo sun. You might also be watching for Virgo moon or Virgo rising, but this is the Virgo forecast. And we want to know how old you are, and I want you to be considering what personal deserts that you have been walking through. Where have you felt alone, isolated, and different? Where have you felt unprepared and unsupplied, right? And these are the moments where we really get to come to terms with an edge in our spiritual development. So Virgo, you are the faithful servant, a message from Spirit for you. I gave you the gift of discernment. You see what needs fixing and healing. Serve with love, not perfectionism. Let your service be holy. Your gift is healing, organization, humility, and sacred service. How old are you, Virgo? If you're 68, you're in a 9th house year. If you're 10, you're in an 11th house year. If you're 50, you're in a 3rd house year. If you're 30, you're in a 7th house year. Take your age, look at the house number, take a screenshot, and see if any of these match your experience this birth year. It'll change when you change ages. I also want you to take a screenshot of this. This is a very short snapshot of the life cycles of the soul and the concept that we all go through these certain astrological conditions, like the Saturn square, like the Jupiter return. And so see if you're one of these special ages and notice if the themes are also helping support your spiritual growth. 2026 is a 1 year. It's about focus, discernment, staying on the path with some blinders on at some level. The previous year was a 9 year, a lot of intensity, culmination, integration, completion. This is more about starting a new path. And the birthing pains that go in between that 9 year and that 1 year. The wilderness that we are called to experience in the soul, where we do feel it's just us and God, there's nothing else, right? It's not a luxury, it's a necessity of the human spirit, right? So don't be afraid as you're going into deserts or the wild spaces where there seems to be nothing there. Q1, out of nothing something. We're planting seeds. It's a new moon period. It's dark. We don't know everything yet. Q2, it's a growth period. We're making some pivots, right? It's a first quarter moon phase. We're seeing what is, and we're making some changes with these growing pains that are happening as the seed sprouts. We don't know if it's going to be a sunflower or an oak, but it's sprouting and there's strength happening. Q3, this is more about when the crops fade and there's more of a hungry period, a starvation, a yearning. This is when tests and temptation comes in, right? Isn't it when you go on a diet that your best friend calls and says, hey, it's pizza night? You know, so the temptation comes, right? The tests come. And so you know that, so you can face it with strength and awareness. Q4 is going to be more about harvesting and gratitude and slowing down and becoming more internal. But yeah, April and July look like kind of wild, pivotal months for us. And so we'll just get into it here. Q1, out of nothing something. We've got 2 eclipses in the first quarter of the year. There's the big Saturn-Neptune conjunction in 0 degrees of Aries. This is a starting point. It's at the very beginning, the egg period of the zodiac, right? The whole wheel starts at 0 Aries, and we've got Saturn and Neptune there. So the banks of the river and the river. So this is a new direction and a new possibility, an unexplored wilderness. Your support is going to be to surrender old cycles and to clear space. The great thinkers used to go on long walks at least once a day, so maybe you need to clear space in your mind by going on a long walk. And your journal prompt is, what new foundation am I building with prayerful direction? So Virgo, January is a 2-month and a 1 year. This is about relationships, one-on-one of all kinds, but it's also about the relationship you have with your creator, the relationship you have with your garden, with your home, with your space, with your resources. And so in January, I want you to pump the brake, take less in, and do a resource reset. This could be a pantry clean out. This could be looking at your budget and redefining some things. This could be leaning on your creator for provision instead of your spreadsheet. Throughout the forecast, I have these notes that you'll see where I've pulled out a Sabian symbol, and I'm not going to read every one, but just to get you going on how you can use it. You can see the theme coming through the astrology into the Sabian symbol, and it's a woman in pastel colors carrying a heavy and valuable but veiled load. So as Venus, the Sun, and Mars oppose Jupiter and square Chiron, and I'm telling you, Mercury, the details of squaring Neptune, right? Like the details are getting lost. We're feeling lost in space. We're feeling like we have to surrender our plan for a greater plan. That Sabian symbol, you can see how it wraps it all together. A woman who's approachable in soft colors, right? Angelic feeling, tender, kind. She's carrying too much, but it's important stuff. So what does she need to do? She needs to share those resources. She needs to be generous. And this really ties into your resource reset month. So your relationship with money, your relationship with worth, your relationship with your creator, slow down, feel it all, and take less in with you. In February, yes, we've got the big conjunction, but we've been feeling it for the year ahead, right? The eclipse is going to show us sudden social shifts. It's in 28 degrees of Aquarius, so almost the end of Aquarius. So this sense of agitation among different groups of people. We're going to see those shock waves up to 90 days in advance. Eclipse moments can occur up to 3 months in advance. But where is that in your chart? Get with your astrologer and look at where 28 degrees Aquarius is, and look at the house, look at what planets are there. For you, Virgo, this is a health reset. So early in the year, you're getting to redo and define some things for yourself with your finances and with your health. It's a 3-month, it's a creative year. So get creative, think outside the box, break your routine, do something different, try something new. Circle 222 on your calendar, Venus trines Jupiter, and that's great for love and money and a feeling of expanding the good stuff. Mercury will retrograde in Pisces as Mars squares Uranus, and so there's a stimulation, a temptation to freak out, a temptation to lose it. Mars is that fiery, inspiration to do something differently and go forward. And Uranus is very unpredictable. The square can create red flags and cautions, right? And so we want to just be safe during this Mercury retrograde period, especially with water. Safety around fire and water is a big deal all throughout the year. So just taking that into consideration. And then the retrograde in Pisces, this reconnection to your spiritual practices is as much a part of your financial and physical reset as anything, right? Recommitting to prayer and meditation. In March, it's a 4-month. It's about accepting what's there, building on reality so that you're building, all of your projects are being built on a solid foundation. So you might be rewriting some of your protocol processes, procedures, but you're doing it in a way that feels really honest and clear. March starts in an uncomfortable way. Mars is a fire planet, hot, heated, passionate, forward momentum in Pisces, which is water and fluid and waves, right? Mars doesn't know what to do with that Pisces energy. Venus, and then the opposite happens. Venus, this luxurious goddess receiving sensual Venus, is in pointed Aries, and she doesn't know what to do with that and that energy, right? And so there's this juxtaposition of the masculine and the feminine and the divine helix that's occurring. At the same time, we have the eclipse in Virgo. So Virgo has to do with our JOBs, right? This is in your sign. So if your sun or moon is in 12 degrees of Virgo, you're probably going to feel this one to your core, right? This is going to be a pivotal awakening moment where maybe you're unplugging from some of the stuff that just doesn't matter, the material stuff that doesn't matter, and you're refocusing on the spiritual side that does matter. This is again, a personal reset for you. This first quarter, you're going to be a whole new person. And so you are building new foundations in every area, every aspect of your life. Just for fun, I put some recipes in, and maybe you want to do some type of herbal detox tea. I'm not a doctor. Don't take medical recommendations from me. I just like to play with the foods and the flavors and the herbs that go with the signs and the seasons. In the second quarter, this is about growth and waking up and stretching our petals up towards the sun. And this like half of you is pulling up and leaning the petals up towards the sun, and half of you is rooting down and anchoring your roots into the earth. And so there's this natural stretch that strengthens us, that pulls us a little bit. Uranus gets back into Gemini, Chiron moves into Taurus, and then we have another Mercury retrograde. So your support is discernment, which is one of your spiritual gifts, right? Knowing what's what, being able to clearly identify what is my voice versus what is Spirit's voice working through me. Your journal prompt is, where am I called to grow in faith and not fear? So really easy to identify some of our fears. It's the things that we want to control. It's where life feels like it gets completely unmanageable and we try to take a hold of it. And the antidote is faith and taking those fears to the Creator. April is a 5-month and a 1 year. So there's a tendency to get spread too thin and a tendency to take on too much. And that's not going to be ideal. Mars, Neptune, Saturn, all within 2 to 7 degrees of Aries in this conjunction in mid-April. It feels hot, heated. And again, like we've got the spiritual warrior or a misguided crusader. Mars are conjunct Neptune in my chart, out of bound Mars in the first house. And so there have definitely been some times in my life when I've been on a mission and I was wrong about it, right? So we have to look at leadership and then our own internal leader, our own heart space as, am I being a little bit misguided? Is there a reset or a redirect that needs to happen? Mars and Saturn are the malefics, right? That indicates a spiritual war of some type. And so what are you fighting against? It's your own attitude when you're in traffic and somebody does something that you don't like, right? What is your attitude? That is part of the spiritual war or battle that we fight in this modern material world, right? So maintaining your yoga practices, that's going to help you be mentally flexible when you hit an edge. That's going to help you to see the temptation and not take it and not take the bait. That's going to help you see when somebody's poking the bear and it just not affect you anymore, right? That's kind of my goal for us in April. We're going to amp up some good yoga activities. We need the banks of the river, Saturn, the structure in order for the river to flow. So embrace structure, embrace limitation, embrace things that provide a container of sorts. This month, the astrology reminded me of the story of the starfish. So there's a boy at the ocean walking at the water's edge, and all of these starfish are washing up and dying on the shore. And the old man comes by and says, you know, you can't save them all. And the boy throws one back in. He said, I can save that one. And so this April, it's like, who are you saving? Who are you coming back for? It's not your responsibility, somebody else's spiritual walk, but there's this idea of just going back for the one, you know, the one, and extending your love and extending your grace, especially in times that feel like a little bit heated. So yeah, I want you guys to be careful with, I'm traveling this April. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying I want you to be careful and aware, and just, yeah, coming back in tune with your guiding lights, really. In May, Virgo, cooler heads will prevail. So if you have built yourself up and throughout the first quarter, you have like become a better version of yourself that is more flexible, that is more willing to surrender your goals for a higher plan, this is going to be a month for you to enjoy watching the changes happen. It's a 6 month, it's a month of rest and relaxation and internal work and nesting. So some home improvement could be helpful for you. I love this theme, pure and blameless sanctuary. I just love that. Like, where is your place of innocence, and can you return to that in May? Mercury and Chiron are going to square Pluto. Pluto will retrograde, and then Mars will square retrograde Pluto. So it's this kind of Mercury, Chiron, and Mars are continuing this interaction, this square going on with Pluto, where you've got a Sabian symbol involved that's a large disappointed audience. So it reminds me to not put our faith in people or laws or data or ideas or agreements. Our faith is in something higher. And so, of course, that's, I guess, to be interpreted differently through different cultural experiences, right? But the media is going to show us something. I feel like there's going to be some kind of media leak or media event that shows us more. Pluto unearths, it digs up secrets, it shows us what we have missed. And so it could be that I don't know how to say that. Like, it could be that one thing happens, it looks like this on the surface, but this had to happen in order for us to see the underbelly of the other thing. So there can be this, what's on the surface is very temporary to get what's at the underbelly. And so going deep into that, this is a month for you to really focus on your health, Virgo, for your health. Okay, in June, we've got a 7 month and a 1 year. I always think of like going up a spiral staircase in the 7 months and just spending time like in retreat and reading the sacred texts and just having a moment to unplug. And this would be a great month to unplug. Mercury is retrograde in Cancer, and so this could be a time when you're flipping through old family photos or making recipes from your grandmother, or maybe you're visiting old home sites that you used to live, or you're doing some travel where you're touching base with some of your ancestry, or maybe you're visiting grave sites or something. You're sharing your family story, your lineage. Jupiter moves into Leo, right? That is going to be, I think, news around the royals, the royal family. I think there's going to be some interest around influencers or people that are leaders. Jupiter magnifies, and Leo on the bad side can be the ego, the self, the me, right? On the good side, it can be those heart-centered leaders. So be more you, Virgo. Chiron moves into Taurus, and so this is going to be a positive thing for you. It's going to work well with your sun sign in Virgo. Chiron, it represents a part of us that's small, wounded, hurt, different. It's also where we have our niche special talents, the thing that makes us quirky and really good at this one little interesting thing. I do think that you're going to have a belief restoration going on, so that you are being prepared for a new way of thinking, a new way of healing, a new special skill or talent that is uniquely yours, and that you're learning to work with your hands in a new way, that you're learning to work with your words in a new way. And I think that if you're going to write something, that it should be like your memoir during this time. A family memoir could be really interesting for you to consider. Okay, light fresh foods that celebrate the season for you. What about like a quinoa tabbouleh? I made one the other day. I just really went all like kind of Greek veggies. I did bell pepper, all the different bell peppers. I did the dark olives. I did some feta. I did parsley, some radish finely chopped, even some carrot. I did some red onion, and then I mixed. It was mostly that, and then just a little bit of tabbouleh. So that could be a fun, grounding, fresh thing for you to have in the fridge sometime that quarter. All right, now we move into Q3. So the excitement of summer is like peaking, and then there's a dearth period where the flowers dry up and the blossoms fade, and there's a period of desert. And this is the period of temptation, of starvation. This is when the honeybees go on their flight and they don't know there's no resources, there's no comb. They have to rebuild their house. They have to bring in the nectar. They have to remake the honey and store up for the winter, right? This is a period of intense spiritual discipline where we have to just keep the faith even when things get hard. So the wilderness and the deserts are what our soul needs. We need to be away in order to have that time to encounter God. So, a journal prompt for us this season is: am I living aligned with my highest values and divine timing? The support is patience and perseverance during cosmic delays. So, just stick with it. Eye on the prize. You're in a 1 year. Stay focused. And remember that rejection is God's protection. There are many groups that I am so glad that I did not get to be a part of because it turns out it would not have been a good fit, right? So, no problem. July, it's an 8 month. This is about abundance. It's about going big. It's a big energy month. If you can dream it, you can do it. All of the outer planets are having a huge narrative. The North Node then is moving from Pisces back into Aquarius. And what this reminds me of is just going on a wild goose chase. There's a book that my spiritual group recently read called Chasing the Wild Goose. And in it, the author refers to the ancient Celtic Christians who called the Holy Spirit the wild goose. Now, I just love this imagery for the spiritual journey, for chasing the wild goose, for saying yes to the adventure, for not knowing where you're going to stay or what the conditions are going to be like or what the food is going to be like or if you're going to have enough money to get home. You know what I mean? This chasing the wild goose is ultimate radical faith. And so for you, Virgo, this month of July, I want you to do something different with your service work. I want you for it to not be a burden for you. I want you to do something that feels like fresh and different and uses your Virgo strengths and talents of organization, but in a way that is like helps streamline everything for others and just be part of a bigger group dream. Okay. In August, we've got 2 eclipses. Now, we may feel those eclipse moments well before August, but those are the astrological markers I want to focus on. There's an intensity. It's a 9 month. It's the last number. It's an ending within a beginning. And so there's going to be distortion, chaos, confusion around the eclipses, right? These are pivotal moments that we can't predict. So in Leo, fire, in Pisces, water. And we'll see some of the natural the weather events as relating to purification and cleansing when it comes to fire and water. A church bazaar, I think we'll see some revival type activities. I think we'll see fire and water like where they meet, like volcanoes and water and steam. Leo is about our personal power, right? Our ego, our desire to rise above and be famous and things like this. Pisces is that desire to blend in and to not be stand out and to be spiritual and to be part of history, right? And so these are 2 very different eclipses, and it's going to unearth that which needs to be healed. So if the timeline looks weird, if the stories look weird, if the media is chaotic, it's part of this unearthing process. And just know that you're right where you're supposed to be. So even though we've got endings and beginnings, and even though we've got this cataclysmic kind of tectonic plates shifting new direction, feeling of being in the wilderness and not really having a clear path forward, just knowing that it can't be this. Those feelings I want you to take into healing your personal relationships. So Virgo, if there's anybody that you have been estranged to because of you or the other person, maybe this is a time for forgiveness, redemption, building bridges, or at least having a little I'm sorry peaceful moment so that you can go forward, dying well, really, right? Like, so that you know that you have done everything that is needed to repair relationships. And that's going to require your internal changing of your perspective, right? When we're building bridges with relationships, it's never the other person that has to change. It's always us. So things to integrate for August. September is a 1 month and a 1 year. So it does feel a little better. Now, the start of the September, Mars, which doesn't like to be in Cancer, squares Saturn, which is in militant Aries, right? Like there's this abrupt spiritual reminder that we're still kind of fighting some sort of spiritual battle. That could be the urge to react again in traffic. That could be something much bigger. It could be a feeling of being attacked, and when we're not necessarily, or when we need to stand up and provide some sort of protections in place. So I was reminded recently that praying for our enemies turns hatred into blessings. So we're not praying for our enemies out of the kindness of our hearts. Some of us, we're doing this as a way to change the whole mojo, to stop all of the bad juju that's coming at us and turn it like a spiritual warrior into something good. And so this is the battle that we're facing in early September. This is the reset button that we're hitting, like enough, Mercury opposes Neptune. This is the details, the pathways, the tubes, the communication, the cars, the computers, and it's opposing Neptune, which dissolves and distributes. So will we see a media leak? Will we have some research going on with dementia? Will we be more confused? Will things be more distorted? Yes. So just go really slow mid-month. I think that we're going to have people accessing their spiritual gifts in new ways. Spiritual doors are opening. Retrograde Neptune sextiling retrograde Pluto. And to me, that is just an opening. Pay attention to your prophetic dreams. Pay attention to your visions. Pay attention to your spidey hits. Not necessarily only on this day. It releases on this day, right? So a little horoscope forecast for you, Virgo, is finding some balance with your finances. So we did a financial reset earlier this year with you guys, and now we're going to make some pivots and some adjustments. We didn't get it perfect, and so now we're going to make those little adjustments that add up. So maybe you're canceling some subscriptions, or maybe you're adding some subscriptions, but we're trying to find some homeostasis when it comes to how you spend and how you feel about money. And are you plugged into the true power source, or are you stuck in the minutia of thinking about like finances from the material plane? So this will shift for you as the sun moves into Libra and the seasons change. So for you, Virgo, how about some zucchini fritters? Gosh, I think it's the Moosewood cookbook has a great zucchini fritter recipe. Basically, you just need to grate up some zucchinis, put some flour and egg and herbs, maybe basil, together with your shredded zucchini that you have dried, and then make these wonderful fritters. You could add corn, you could add cheddar, you could add whatever you wanted. All right, the last quarter of the year is more about harvesting and harvesting like gratitude nuggets from the things that went well throughout the year. So maybe you need a bucket at the beginning of the year to write something that you're grateful for each month or each day. And then that's you'll re-find it, and you'll just be re-energized about all the goodness that happened throughout the year. We're closing cycles, and we're celebrating blessings, and we're tying up things to prepare for the next year. In October, Venus and Mercury will retrograde in Scorpio, and the RE words come to light. So recovery, redemption. So what are you trying to recover on your spiritual development path? What are you trying to redeem in terms of your soul's growth? This is a 2-month again, just like January. So if themes about relationships come up for you in the context of having honest conversations in the month of October, this could be really helpful, really healing, and really freeing, emotionally freeing. For November, it's a 3-month, it's a creative month. And for you, I think it's going to be a private month of doing something like really within. And so this might be a month where you want to unplug You could journal through your desire, what you want versus what you're feeling called to do. And maybe with some of you like struggling with the things that just aren't working that you've been trying to force and make work because you want to fix it, because you want to heal it, because you're a Virgo, but you can't, right? You can't do it all. And so you're relaxing that desire and embracing that calling, that wild goose chase. In November, Mars, Jupiter in the South Node will meet in Leo, right? The superstar or the super spreader. More will be revealed. Jupiter blows things up big, expands it wide. South Node cuts things off, ends things, digests, assimilates, and releases. And then Mars stimulates, right? And then there's Leo, having to do with the heart. Mars pumps blood. There could be some news around the royals, news around leadership, news around making like the everyday guy a leader instead of like a famous influencer. And then in December, yay, we get to take it easy at the end of the year. Saturn and Neptune are still working together closely in the sky. They will both go direct, and then Jupiter will retrograde this week. So I would not book myself too many activities. Anytime an outer planet goes direct or retrograde, the day before, of, and after are usually a little bit slower energy for me personally. So notice that if that's true for yourself, and maybe just take things off the calendar instead of piling them on. On the 21st, we have solstice. This is a return to light. This is the beekeeper's new year. This is when the bees' biology starts changing because where I live, we get more light. So it's winter, but the light starts increasing. And for you, Virgo, you have a responsibility to work with your creative side. And so what is that? That Capricorn, that sun moving into Capricorn is stimulating something in you that is a little bit beyond the cage of responsibility and beyond the cage of your duties and beyond the cage of what you think you have to do. So something new is being built in you. Again, it's a new 4-month. This is a repeat energy from earlier in the year, this foundational period. What is it that you want to build into that concrete foundation, right? What scripture, what verse, what intention, what mantra do you want to just gel into the foundation that is December? Let your soul catch up with your body. Start and finish the year slow, slow, slow. And that slowing down will allow what's wanting to be created through you to come forth. But if you're just busy all the time, you can't hear it, right? What about some stuffed acorn squash? I actually have one right now that I'm going to do this week. So what I do is I cut the top off, I dig the seeds out, I put some butter, brown sugar, pecans, and apple slice or cubes in there, and I do kind of a sweeter version. You could do a savory version as well. All right, some closing ideas for you guys, Virgo. As a reminder, our guiding light is the creator of the earth and the moon and the stars and the heavens, right? So we want to worship the creator, not the created. We do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. Love your enemies. Change that hatred into love. Find a blessing for others. And just know this, when we come to the end of ourselves, our egos, our plans, the things we want to fix, control, and explain, we return home. So what is that journey home looking like for you? And how can you come back home day after day after day on your journey? Virgo, this is a reminder. You are the faithful servant. Spirit gave you the gift of discernment. You see what needs fixing and healing. Serve with love, not perfectionism. Let your service be holy. Your gift is healing, organization, humility, and sacred service. The mountains are calling, Virgo, and you must go. You must answer the calling. You have to. This is your precious human life. So get out there, follow the wild goose, and see what 2026 has to offer. This is a wilderness period. You're going to be refined, purified, cleansed, renewed by the end of the year. You're going to be a whole different Virgo. And if we can support you by offering the Wise Skies digital astrology calendar, check it out at wiseskiescalendar.com and use the code Stormie2026 so that you can get a nice discount. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I hope this is useful to you, that I've inspired you and to think bigger, to have a bigger perspective. And yeah, that's it. Have a happy new year and namaste.
Hey there, welcome to the locational astrology section of this video. I'm so excited to support you. My name's Helena Woods, and I'm a leading locational astrology and astrocartography specialist, traveling full-time around the world, data collecting and testing this information of how to be in the best places at the right times, using the power of astrocartography combined with transits and progressions. So if you don't know astrocartography, it's essentially a sub-niche, subdivision within the bigger umbrella that is locational astrology. And it's essentially the astrology of place, the astrology of location. Places have influence, places have power, and I'm on a mission to support people to unlock their natal promise and be in the places that awaken and activate aspects within the birth chart. The most important thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to note when transiting planets are hitting your personal planets. Now, in this video, I'm giving general descriptions for each rising sign. However, astrocartography is very personal in that your moon's at a certain degree. Your Venus is not going to be the same Venus that someone else's rising sign is, right? Our planets in our birth chart are in specific zodiac signs at specific degrees in certain parts of the chart. And so the key thing I want you to take away from this whole video is that when you go to an astrocartography line, let's say the moon line, for instance, you want to go to that moon line when a transiting planet like the sun, Venus, or Jupiter is going over your moon, because that's where we're getting the most acceleration, enhancement of being at the right place at the right time. And so I've been doing this in my own life for the last 3 years, traveling the world full time, noting the planets that I would like to receive from. So for example, if you want publicity and acknowledgement and attention, you'd go to your sun line. If you want to launch or promote or even commerce, sales, marketing, socializing with friends, having an astrology meetup, meeting up with people, Mercury lines. If you need some confidence and courage, go to a Mars line. If you're looking for some more knowledge and expansion, seeing more possibilities, that question of where do I need to be expanded in my life? What needs clarity? Go to a Jupiter line. So utilizing and understanding what these planets represent in astrology, knowing their meanings, you can plan trips accordingly to go to those places to get the maximum enhancement of what that planet symbolizes. And also being there at a time when you personally are getting the activation by transits and progressions to your planets. This is where things really take off to a whole other level. The other way that you can get the maximum benefit of these stories, even if you don't travel, is by getting the energy through remote activation. So calling up that friend that lives on the Mercury line when you've got the transit, reaching out to that podcast to do a collaboration on your Jupiter line. Even though you don't live on the Jupiter line, you know a podcast host who lives on your Jupiter line. Reaching out to them when the timing brings it up, okay? Obviously, traveling to these lines and being in these locations is where you're going to get the most maximum benefit of astrocartography, but still, these are important things that you can do that can help you. So let's get into the 2026 travel forecast. Now, the best time to really travel in 2026 will be when Jupiter is direct. And this is between the time frame of March 10th to December 11th. We start 2026 off. We start the year off with Jupiter retrograde, but Jupiter, the planet of travel, knowledge, and expansion, will move direct. On March 10th, Jupiter will station direct, will move direct on March 10th. And so once we get to March 10th and Jupiter's direct, I really love this for all things travel. Note as we get to the end of the year that Jupiter will also retrograde December 12th of 2026. So just some key timeframes to note in your calendar for the year. Now I want to kind of bring up an example of how you can use astrocartography with timing, as I mentioned earlier. In 2026, we have Jupiter in Cancer. If you have any planets in Cancer personally, or Leo, if you have any personal planets, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Uranus even, Neptune, outer planets, Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, even the nodes, if you have the lunar nodes in Cancer or Leo, This year, if you have any planets in Cancer, this is the year to go to that planetary line that you have that's being transited by Jupiter. Same thing with next year. As we get into next June 30th of 2026, Jupiter will ingress into Leo. If you have any planets in Leo, including the lunar nodes and even the outer planets, if you have any placements in Leo, going to that astrocartography line as Jupiter is hitting it, so for instance, if you have Mars in Leo, or you have the Sun in Leo, or you have Mercury in Leo, going to the Mercury line when Jupiter is hitting it is a really cool way to accelerate things, enhance your life, and get a lot of cool opportunities and expansions and enhancements with that Jupiter transit. So wanted to just mention this right at the top before we get into the rising sign forecast. Look at the planets that you have in your birth chart. If you have anything in Cancer or Leo, this is going to be a major time to travel to those astrocartography lines to get the benefit of the Jupiter transit. All right, let's get started. Next up, we have Virgo risings. Venus lines would be ideal places for you to make a trip to, with Taurus in your 9th whole sign house of foreign cultures, travel, and long distance travel. Ideal times to travel to your Venus lines would be between March 31st and April 24th of this year, with Venus traveling through your 9th whole sign house of long distance travel. Another option is when the Sun is going to be traveling through that 9th whole sign house, and that will be between April 25th and May 18th. So that chunk of time is a really nice time to go abroad, to be in a foreign culture, foreign land, or even just learn a foreign language. Jupiter lines are places in the world where you might feel really at home in the world, Virgo risings. An ideal time period for you to venture to a Jupiter line this year would be anytime between November 23rd and December 21st. Another time period that you might really like to make a short distance trip, go see some family, do a little road trip, make a shorter trip, would be between September 10th and October 24th. This is because Venus is going to be traveling through your 3rd whole sign house. And even better, if you have any placements in Scorpio, so Scorpio Sun, Scorpio Moon, Scorpio Mercury, Scorpio Mars, we have Venus in Scorpio, etc. If you have any placements in Scorpio, going to that astrocartography line that's associated with the zodiac sign that you have it in, going to that line between September 10th and October 24th would be especially magical. I hope that this information supported you and helped you in planning your travels this year in 2026. And so if you want to learn more about this, you can check out my website at helenawoods.com and also get my free astrocartography cheat sheet. You can join my astrocartography newsletter, which is all free, at helenawoods.com/cheat sheet. All this to say, though, this is going to be an amazing year of travel. I'm really excited for everyone to be taking advantage of Jupiter in Cancer and Uranus in Gemini. Have a magical day. Thanks for tuning in.